Minash-shaytanir-rajim. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. I seek refuge in God from Satan the rejected. Brothers and sisters, welcome back again to another Quran study. God willing, we will be reading from chapter 12, verse 29. The chapter's name is called Joseph. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. In the name of merciful. Joseph, as for you, my wife, you should seek forgiveness for your sin. You have committed an error. Some woman in the city gossiped. The governor's wife is trying to seduce her servant. She is deeply in love with him. We see that she has gone astray. When she heard of their gossip, she invited them, prepared for them a comfortable place, and gave each of them a knife. She then said to them, "Enter their room." When they saw him, they so admired him that they cut their hands. They said, glory be to God. This is not a human being. This is an honorable angel. She said, "This is the one you blame me for falling in love with. I did indeed try to seduce him, and he refused. Unless he does what I command him to do, he will surely go to prison and will be debased." In the footnote, we read, this is the same word used in 538 regarding the hand of the thief, and the sum of surah and verse numbers 12 plus 31 and 5 plus 38 are the same. Therefore, the thief's hand should be marked, not severed as practiced by the corrupted Islam. See footnote 538. Yeah, so this was like one of the amazing things that the first time when I saw this, like I was really amazed on how God sending a book and giving us hints and giving us like information about what to do in certain circumstances, right? Like for example, in the Quran, the so-called Muslims of today, they are using the word. Which is in this case like cutting the hand. They use this as if you need to cut the whole hand of a thief. But we can understand from this verse that God is using the same word, but in this case, of course, it's not possible that those women who saw Joseph for the first time, that they could eventually cut their whole hands, right? Like it doesn't really make sense. So here, this is a good example on how to understand other verses in the Quran and compare them with the words that God has used throughout the Quran, and that 12:31 and 5:38 makes 42, right? Makes 43. So this also gives us a hint that we need to understand the other verse where the other verse is by, what is it called? To cut the hands of the thief. So this means that it's not meant for cutting the hand. It's only for, what does it say? It says, hand of the end of some surah. Therefore, the thief's hand should be marked and not be cut. Yeah, that was the whole point of it. Like it needs to be marked. And what happens here is, of course, she clearly tells them that she was trying to seduce Joseph, right? Because the other woman also heard about it, but she's trying to, make it. She's trying to tell them that it's very normal because he was so like very handsome maybe, or they really admired him and she was admiring him as well. But again, that it doesn't matter. Like this is something that is not allowed and it's a wrong thing to do. And she says, like, if he's not going to do what I tell him to do, and I'm going to put him in, he's going to go to prison for not doing it. And then he said, "My lord, the prison is better than given into them, unless you divert their scheming from me. I may desire them and behave like the ignorant ones." He said, "My lord, the prison is better than given into them, unless you divert their scheming from me. I may desire them and behave like the ignorant ones." So he actually accepts He says like, instead of doing those things, I prefer to go to the prison, and this shows, how sincere Joseph is actually and how he behaves. His Lord answered his prayer and diverted their scheming from him. He is the hearer, the omniscient. Later, they saw to it, despite the clear proofs, that they should imprison him for a while. So eventually, he ends up in the prison, right? But God knows the future, and sometimes, being in certain situations where we think that things can be bad for us, eventually it can end up being a very good thing for us. So, in any case, as submitters, we need to be patient, and we need to put our trust in God, and then we need to, all these commandments of God, we need to try to follow those commandments, right? Like, God is commanding him not to do that sin, and he accepts this. Like, he is willing to go to prison for that because he's submitting to the will of God. Two young men were in the prison with him. One of them said, I saw in my dream that I was making wine. And the other one said, I saw myself carrying bread on my head from which the birds were eating. Inform us of the interpretation of these dreams. We see that you are righteous. So Joseph ending up in prison, there are two people, and then both of them had seen a dream, and they're asking him if he can interpret those dreams, because they say, yeah, we see that you are righteous. Like, most probably when he was there, they saw that this was a good person, with good behaviors. He wasn't lying, cheating, or that type of stuff. Like, he was most probably different than the other ones. Actually, before I go to this verse, I wanted to, maybe we can discuss more about the situation. But here in the verse, um, on 31, we are reading that when they saw him, they so admired him that they cut their hands. And they said, Glory be to God, that this is not a human being, this is a honorable angel. So, like, like these people, they are believing in God, maybe multiple gods, but at least they are believing in God, and that's why they are saying glory be to God. But maybe we can discuss this after the study. Like how did they believe in God? Like, were they believing in multiple gods or one God? But this we can maybe discuss afterwards. So these two young men, they had this dream, and they're asking him to interpret the dream. And on 37, he said, if any food is provided to you, I can inform you about it before you receive it. This is some of the knowledge bestowed upon me by my Lord. I have forsaken the religion of people who do not believe in God. I have forsaken the religion of people who do not believe in God. And with regard to the hereafter, they are really disbelievers. So, one of the other things that he could do by God's leave is like to tell them what type of a food is going to be provided for them. He would know that information. And I followed instead the religion of my ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. We never set up any idols beside God. Such is the blessing from God upon us and upon the people. But most people are unappreciative. Okay, so, and then he's saying, of course, that he is a he's a submitter to God, and he follows the religion of his ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And they are like not idol worshippers. Right? They say we only believe in one God and we don't do idol worship. And then he says, all my prison mates are several gods better, or God alone, the one, the supreme. And this could be like one of the answers that we can give for the verse that we have read in 31. He's telling them that one God is better and supreme than multiple gods, right? Because of multiple gods, it doesn't really make sense. And God says in the Quran that if there were more multiple gods, then it would be a chaos. Like, each of them would have their own ideas of doing things, stuff, and this ends up to a chaotic situation. You do not worship beside him except innovations that you have made up, you and your parents. God has never authorized such idols. All ruling belongs to God, and he has ruled that you shall not worship except him. This is the perfect religion, but most people do not know. Throughout the whole Quran and with all the messengers and prophets that God has sent, like, the message is the same, that there's only one God. You should not worship any other god beside God. And he's doing the same thing. He's in prison, and you have the his prison mates there, and he's teaching them that they should leave all the other gods, the made up gods, and then to worship only one God. The message is very clear. And he also speaks about, he says, you do not worship besides them except innovations that you have made up. Like, this is not something new, right? Like, all the stuff that we are discussing in today's world, it was always the same. Like, people make up innovations and they follow these innovations. And those innovations, they come basically because, like, when you look at the history on, of the world, and when you look at the Bible, the Torah, the Quran, the Hadith, like so many, there is so much information, right? And most of the innovations that come because of the desire of people. For example, people want to marry multiple, like they want to get married or have relations with small children, so they end up um, innovating lies about the prophet, for example, or they want to make certain things prohibited because they don't like it, and then they end up making these innovations. This was the situation from the beginning, right? All the time they had these innovations, and God sends messengers and prophets to correct all these mistakes, and invite them to follow the true religion. Here we can see that too, right? He says, um, innovations are you and your parents. God has never authorized such idols. This is also important, right? You need authorization from God. Like, you can't just say something about a religion and then make up something and then say, okay, this is from God. Like, you really need authorization. And the miracle of 19 is a very good example on that. God sends a book, but he proves us that this book truly indeed is from him. Everything that is written here in this Quran is indeed from him. So we know for a certain that everything that is in this book is indeed sent by God. So we can follow all these commandments, knowing that they are truly the commandments of God and not any innovation of the people. All ruling belongs to God, and he has ruled that you shall not worship except him. This is the perfect religion. So the perfect religion is to accept that there is only one God. But this, of course, doesn't mean that, accepting one God doesn't mean that, because most of the Muslims today, and also people from other religions as well, some, they can say that they believe in one God, but we need to understand um, the true explanation of what it means, believing in one God. And the Messenger of the Covenant explains this in a very unique and in a very simple way. And he gives the example of doing the ablution, for example. Yeah. So he asks in one of the videos, the interviewer, how he's doing the ablution. So in the Quran, we read that the ablution is that you need to wash your face, like your hands up to your elbows, wipe your head, and then wash your foot up to your ankle. So this is the way how God taught us how to do the ablution. And if you do it in a different way, then this means that you have like another God besides God telling you or teaching you to do it in that way. So saying that you believe in one God doesn't really mean that you really believe in one God. Like, you need to prove this. If you are not following God's commandment, if you don't submit to the commandments of God, and you are going to follow other innovations, this means that you actually don't accept that there is only one God. This proves actually that you have multiple gods. You have other gods beside God telling you how to do the ablution or the prayer, or anything about religion, or anything that has to do with the commandments of God. If you follow something else, then the Quran or God itself, this means, and it proves that you have multiple gods. In 41, he says, "O my prison mates, one of you will be the wine butler of his Lord, while the other one will be crucified. The birds will eat from his head. This settles the matter about which you have incurred." So one of the things that we see here is Joseph is explaining what, interpreting the dreams of these two young men. And before he does that, he also tells them, he gives them this information about God, and that he can inform them about, before receiving the food. So he's giving them some extra, I think, some extra, um, how to say this, like he's approving that he is the person who can interpret dreams, and it's going to be the truth. Right? Because, like, how can someone know what type of food is going to be provided in prison without, getting any information from outside? So he proves this to them. He shows this to them, and then he interprets it. And before that, he also invites them to the perfect religion. He invites them to only follow God, and to have only one God instead of multiple gods. He then said to the one to be saved, "Remember me at your Lord." Thus, the devil caused him to forget his Lord, and consequently, he remained in prison for a few more years. In the footnote, it says, when Joseph begged his companion to intercede with the king on his behalf, he exhibited dependence on other than God to be saved from the prison. This does not benefit a true believer, and such a serious slip cost Joseph a few years in prison. We learn from the Quran that only God can relieve any hardship that might befall us. A true believer trusts in God and depends totally on Him alone. Chapter 1 5, 6 17, 8 17, and 10 107. Yeah, this is a very good example, like, and this mistake, what he did, it cost him a few years in prison. Like, if you would ask someone, like, you know how it is to be prisoned for like a day or like for a week, like it's very bad, right? Like, I remember a guy who he went to prison for only 1 week, and he said, like, it's really bad, like you don't even want to be there for one day, you know even one day is very bad. And then we have Joseph here, because of this mistake that he made, he remained in prison for a few more years. So this shows how important it is to only know and ask help from God. Of course, this doesn't mean that, when we do certain things in our daily life, we ask help to each other, right? Like, for example, I ask someone, yeah, can you help me finish some kind of a job, or do this for me, or do that for me? It's not in that way, actually. We know, of course, that God is doing everything, even if we ask something to each other. To do some certain things. We know God is doing everything. But in this case, Joseph relied on the king. He thought that if the king would hear the situation, or would know the situation about him, that he could be released from it. Forgetting that only he was supposed to ask only God from doing that. And besides that, um, before Joseph went to the prison, he was accepting prison instead of doing the bad deed, right? Like, he was accepting this. So this was, in a way, as a messenger of God, at least this is what I understand this, right? Because he communicates with God, he receives revelations from God at a point, because God says that He said to him certain things. So he's receiving information. So he is already in contact with God about the things that are happening. And then him being in prison, asking help from the king. Like, and as a human being, you are in the situation for, like, you are in being imprisoned for a few months or few years already, maybe. Um, And we should not forget, Joseph was also a human being, right? He was a prophet, a messenger, of course, but he was also, like, it's a human being. It's a person being imprisoned for many years. And he already had, like, um, this situation with his brothers. They throw him into the pit, and then he was sold as a slave, and he already had all these difficulties in his life, of course. But still, it doesn't matter. God says clearly, like, you really need to understand and ask help from only God. That's why we read when we are doing our prayers, 5 time prayers, we read every time we say, only you we worship and only you we ask for help. God is the only one that we need to ask help, um, especially when we know that God is doing everything, right? One of the other examples I wanted to give is the situation with Moses. You know, when Moses left Egypt and, he was in the desert, eventually he came to a place where a few women were waiting to take water from the well. And the guy, the shepherd, he had some sheep and he was giving them water. Moses came and asked them why they couldn't take the water. They said that the guy was like a little bit aggressive, or he didn't want to give them the opportunity to take water. So Moses helped them. And after that, he went to a place, maybe underneath a tree or something. And then he eventually asked God for help. He said he implored to God, asking for help. He said, "You see that I am in need. Please help me." And then one of the women came back and they said, like, I told the situation to my father and he invites you to his house. Like, this was a very good example for me when I read this for the first time. Like, instead of asking help to all these people, he goes there, he helps them, and then he goes somewhere, and then, like, he's asking his God, right? Asking help for in a situation. And then, because God is doing everything and controls everything, God sends the woman back and then invites him, right? So, and God has very different ways of helping us, right? He knows everything, he controls everything. There are so many things involved in this world, and so many things are connected with each other, right? So God can arrange certain things and certain situations in a way that no one can, right? Like, when you are in a situation where you have it extremely difficult, like, the only one who can really help you is actually God. So we really need to understand this very well, and we need to implement this in our lives. That's why God also tells us all these stories, right? Like, what is the reason that God is telling us the situation with Joseph, that he remained in prison for a few more years because he forgot about his Lord and asked help for someone else instead of asking God directly. Like, a few years in prison, it's not a few days, weeks, or months. Like, it's a few years. It's a lot. So this shows us that it truly means something. And every time when we are maybe in a situation where we think, like, if we are in a bad situation, this should be a good reminder for us, right? The situation of Joseph. And then we need to remind ourselves that we only need to ask help from God. He sees everything, He knows everything. He's the only one who can do anything at all. God is running everything, God is doing everything. So we ask God for His help because He's the only one whom we worship, right? Only you we worship and only you we ask for help. For the life of submitters, this is extremely important, and we need to keep this. And if we forget about it, we need to repent, and then, like, all the time, we need to be patient and ask help of God, from God. 43, the king's dream. The king said, I saw 7 fat cows being devoured by 7 skinny cows, and 7 green spikes of wheat, and others shriveled. O my elders, advise me regarding my dream if you know how to interpret dreams. They said, nonsense dreams. When it comes to the interpretation of dreams, we are not knowledgeable. The one who has saved from the prison said, now that he fully remembered, I can tell you its interpretation, so send me to Joseph. Yeah, and interpreting dreams is a big deal at the time, right? And those people, the advisors of the king, they can't do the interpretation. So the guy who eventually was saved from prison, um, he asks if he can have this opportunity to interpret the dream by going to Joseph. Joseph is then in prison, of course, still in prison. 46. Joseph interprets the king's dream. Joseph, my friend, inform us about seven fat cows being devoured by seven skinny cows, and seven green spikes and others shriveled. I wish to go back with some information for the people. He said, what you cultivate during the next 7 years, when the time of harvest comes, leave the grains in their spikes, except for what you eat. After that, 7 years of drought will come, which will consume most of what you stored for them. After that, a year will come that brings relief for the people, and they will once again press juice. Yeah, so this is the interpretation of the dream. Um, So the guy goes back to prison and asks Joseph about it, because Joseph also interpreted his dream. And from the other guy was crucified, and he was eventually saved and went back to the king, and then he was and then he started serving the king. And the dream was about the seven fat cows being devoured by seven skinny cows, and seven green spikes and others shriveled. So I wish to go back with some information for the people. And then he said, what you cultivate during the next 7 years, okay, when the time of harvest comes, leave the grains in their spikes, except for what you eat. Okay, so he's saying that you need to prepare for it, right? Like, except for what you eat, leave the rest of it in their spike. So probably this was the way of what is it called? Preserve. Yeah, so probably this was the way of how to preserve grain in the best way, right? And then he says, after that, 7 years of drought will come, which will consume most of what you stored for them. So in these 7 years, when there's drought, it's going to be very difficult for them to harvest, of course, but they stored all the grains. And if you store all the grains, then you're going to use it in the times when there is less, of course. And then he says, after that, a year will come that brings relief for the people, and they will come again, press juice. So, and then after that, everything will be finished and normal again. So he goes back and tells the king, of course, about the interpretation. And the king said, bring him to me. When the messenger came to him, he said, go back to your lord and ask him to investigate the woman who cut their hands. My lord is fully aware of their schemes. Um, so the messenger goes to Joseph because God said, bring him to me. But Joseph says, go back to your lord, to the king, and ask him to investigate the woman who cut their hands. So he's asking them about the situation that happened before. And then the king said to the woman, so he starts investigating, and he brought the woman, right? And he says, what do you know about the incident when you tried to seduce Joseph? They said, God forbid, we did not know of anything evil committed by him. The wife of the governor said, now the truth has prevailed. I am the one who tried to seduce him, and he was the truthful one. So here, you know, after all the things that happened and the interpretation that Joseph had done, right? Like the advisors of the king, they couldn't do it. So a guy that is now in prison, like he's doing this interpretation. So the king saw that Joseph was not a normal person, right? Because he had all his advisors and they couldn't do it, but Joseph could do that. So he investigated this, and then the truth was prevailed. So they all admitted what happened. And the wife of the governor says, I am the one who tried to seduce him, and he was the truthful one. I hope that he will realize that I never betrayed him in his absence, for God does not bless the schemes of the betrayers. So is this, let me see. He says, or she says, the wife of the governor said, now the truth has prevailed. I am the one who tried to seduce him, and he was the truthful one. I hope that he will realize that I never betrayed him in his absence. For God does not bless the schemes of the betrayers. Okay. And I do not claim innocence for myself. The self is an advocate of vice, except for those who have attained mercy from my Lord. My Lord is forgiver, most merciful. So this is Joseph speaking. Also here, yeah, here. This is Joseph speaking. He says, "I hope that he will realize that I never betrayed him in his absence." Oh, okay. So like he was blamed of doing bad things, right? Oh, is it not Joseph? Oh, okay. Yeah, maybe we can talk about these verses because I try to understand it. Okay, I do not claim innocence for myself. The self is an advocate of vice, except for those who have attained mercy from my Lord. My Lord is forgiven, most merciful. Okay, so this is still the woman. Yeah, okay. Okay. So at that point, at this point, she's admitting things, right? And most probably, she is also very sorry. Like she's repenting. Like this is maybe a way how to understand it. I hope that he will realize that I never betrayed him in his absence. For God does not bless the schemes of the betrayers. I do not claim innocence for myself. Okay, she's admitting the self is an advocate of vice, except for those who have attained mercy from my Lord. My Lord is forgiver, most merciful. Okay, like she is at this point she's praying to God, right? She says, my Lord is forgiver, most merciful. Joseph attains prominence. Okay, the king said, "Bring him to me." Okay, so Joseph isn't there at the moment. So the king is investigating the point. He brought the woman. He was asking about the situation of them cutting their hands, and then they eventually tell what happened. And then the woman, the wife of the governor, she admits that those things happened, and then she regrets it. And after that, the king said, "Bring him to me so I can hire him to work for me." The title is Joseph Attains Prominence. Yeah. And this was the thing that was promised to him, yeah, because he saw this dream. So the king said, "Bring him to me so I can hire him to work for me." When he talked with him, he said, "Today you have a prominent position with us." He said, "Make me the treasurer, for I am experienced in this area and knowledgeable." 55. So eventually, after all these things happened, he became like a very important person in Egypt, and he even became the treasurer, right? Like, I think one of the most important positions you can get at the time in Egypt. And this was also promised to him, right? That he would have like a very important status. Um, yeah, so we are at 33 minutes. Um, so this was the last verse. If there are any questions or any things that the brothers and sisters want to add, please go ahead. Maybe we can talk about the part in verse 31 where I said, okay, because we see here they said, "Glory be to God." This is not human. Like these women, they believe in God. We see here that um, the wife of the governor, she also prays to God here. So this is something I was curious to know about. Maybe we can start with that, God willing.
MashaAllah, thank you.
Mashallah, thank you, brother. Yeah, I didn't really prepare for it, but hopefully if I have made any mistakes, we can talk about it.
Yeah, MashaAllah, good study. So your question is about um what they were believing before or at
Yeah,
this
because you
time?
can see here, right, that
Hmm.
yeah, they talk about gods, they say, right?
Hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's all we know. We don't know exactly what they believe.
Mm-hmm.
But possible, I mean, they believed in God, but probably with, some other idols and stuff like before. That's why God sent messengers. Because if
Mm-hmm.
they were doing everything right, probably there's no need.
Yeah. Again,
Mm-hmm.
you have the situation where this is the movies where they show certain things, which is mostly
Mm-hmm.
not really true. But this can also mean that maybe they believe in God, but they have these innovations, like they have also their clergymen, or they you see, like the similar thing what we have in the Muslim world of
Hmm.
today. Like when you ask any Muslim, do you believe in multiple gods or one God? Like 99.99%, almost all of them are going to say, no, we believe in only one God. But we know from the Quran that all these people, they don't believe really in one God. They have multiple gods. And the messenger explains this, right? Giving the ablution as an example, that when you don't follow the commandments of God in the Quran exactly, like when you add even one small point to it, this proves that you have multiple gods. So maybe the same situation was here. I'm not really sure. And they say also, this is not a human being, this is an honorable angel. So they also believe in angels. This shows that they believe in angels, they believe in God. I have forsaken the religion of people.
Hmm. Right.
And
Yeah,
in,
I
for
mean, so
example, 37.
people
Mhm,
believe, so for example, when God, sent these messengers, of course, um, you have Jacob also,
mhm.
and so he was also a messenger, and then you had, obviously, before that you had Abraham. So
Isaac and Abraham,
yeah,
yeah.
so I mean, all these people had preached a message, but um, so I mean, it's possible that these people believed
Yeah.
as a result of that.
So in 37, he says, for example, this is some of the knowledge bestowed upon me by my Lord. I have forsaken the religion of people who do not believe in God. And with regards to the hereafter, they are really disbelievers. You see? And so, and he is now in prison, but he was for a long time, he was living in between these people, right? Because he was sold to the governor and then he was living with them. So he knew what type of religion they had. And when you see Joseph saying, I have forsaken the religion of people who do not believe in God, and with regards to the hereafter, they are really disbelievers. So this shows they didn't really believe in the hereafter, something like that. But then, yeah, and then when you think about Egypt, like when you look at all these documentaries, please correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, so they believed in a way in the hereafter, or like how could we understand the situation? You understand my question, brother? Like we have these Egyptians build making these buildings, and then the mummies, and then all these hieroglyphs where when you read them, they talk about the hereafter, and the kings and pharaohs, their
Hmm.
souls are, or their bodies maybe even
Hmm.
are going to
Yeah,
be
so I mean,
there.
in different religions, people believe in angels also. They
Hmm.
believed in the angels. They believe in God. I mean, they believe in life after death in some way, like they did the Pharaoh. They had um, they had innovative ideas about it, right? Like,
Hmm.
but the basic understanding is there because the worship of God, for example, itself is an idea that comes as a natural instinct, is given to all the human beings. So across civilizations, people will believe in God. With the addition of some idols.
Hmm.
So even in Egypt, and even at the time of the Pharaoh, like they still believed in God.
Yeah, and I remember, brother, we talking about the topic of believing in the hereafter. One of the
Hmm.
things is that uh, in reality, even if they say that they believe in the hereafter, actually they
Hmm.
don't.
Hmm.
Remember, we were talking about it, right? Like
Yeah.
they act in a certain way as
Hmm.
if there is no hereafter, right? Like this proves that in reality, they are not real believers. It's like only saying things, it's
Hmm.
only, yeah.
Yeah. Also, believing the hereafter doesn't just mean that you believe the hereafter exists, right? I mean, you have to believe, for example, in like knowing God, for example. So you have to believe in the hereafter, like the eternity of the hereafter. To
Hmm.
believe that everything is eternal, and that everybody will be judged according to their actions. There will be no intercession on that
Hmm.
day. I mean, all those things.
Yes. Yes. In 39, like for example, it says, "Oh, my prison mates, Are several gods better, or God alone, the one, the supreme? So, this also gives a clue, an idea of, at the situation at the time, about how their belief was in God, and maybe they had multiple gods. Yeah. Hmm. So he went to prison, and then he was staying there, and two new, what is it? Two young men. They were also in prison with him. Oh, they didn't came after him. The two young men were in the prison with him, and one of them said, "I saw in my dream that I was making wine," and the other said, "I saw myself carrying bread on my head from which the birds were eating. Inform us of the interpretation of these dreams. We see that you are righteous." Hmm. Yeah, so this is also a clue of that these people, they find doing these interpretations. This is important for them, right? At the time, and the Messenger also talks about it. He says, like, at the time of Joseph interpreting dreams, that was a deal. It was a big deal. And then instead of directly interpreting their dreams, he says, if any food is provided to you, I can inform you about it before you receive it. This is some of the knowledge bestowed upon me by my Lord. So he's actually proving them that, yeah. So he's before he does that, he's proving them that he is not a normal person, right? He received some uh, knowledge from his Lord. He's telling them. And then he says, I have forsaken the religion of people who do not believe in God. And with regards to the hereafter, they are really disbelievers. And I followed instead the
Mhm.
religion of my ancestors,
Yeah.
Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. We never set up
When
any idols beside God. Yeah.
mhm. When you say he was not a normal person, like, can you clarify that?
Like he was this. Okay, so what I mean by that is these two guys, they see that he is like righteous, right? They see something in him. They are coming to him to ask about their dream and to interpret it. And the reason is they say, we see that you're righteous.
Hmm.
So you have this
Hmm.
person there because this person Joseph
Do
is
you
like
mean he's not an
from,
ordinary person?
yeah, that's what I mean. Not ordinary,
Yeah, when you
righteous.
say when you say someone is not a normal person, that means that they're not normal.
Sorry, my language. Yeah, I tried to explain. Like,
um,
he's like righteous, and then,
hmm.
why did he was, how to say this? He stood out from the others,
Hmm.
probably,
Hmm.
right? That's why they
Hmm.
came to him. They saw this person, he's
Hmm.
righteous, a good person, and all because he is, a submitter. Like he was following God and righteous,
Hmm.
a good person.
Hmm.
That's what I meant. You are not normal, Suleiman. in a in a good way. You look very healthy. You're not normal. Most of the people don't look healthy. That's why. Uh, uh,
MashaAllah. Thank you, brother. Good
mashallah.
study.
Mhm, so.
Thank you, brother. Mashallah. You are not normal too, John.
Oh, yeah. I hope that's a good thing.
in a positive way. Uh, uh, yeah, but we like, for example, I have heard many things people also saying to me, like they say, "Oh, you're crazy, like you believe in all these things." For
Mhm,
example, when I speak specifically when the topic is Apophis, Like they look to you as if you're crazy, you know, like this guy is not normal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
He's
Even if you
healthy,
know, even
Yeah.
if
but
they
not
don't
normal.
tell you, even if they
Yeah.
don't
Yeah, I
tell
mean
you,
the thing is, like, when Noah was building the ark, they were all laughing at him. So, and that's so
Hmm.
you may be laughing at us, but we're laughing at you just as you're laughing.
Hmm.
And then the subtitle said, "The one who laughs last laughs the best."
life's the best.
You know.
Hmm.
So imagine all
Uh,
these people like having issues and regretting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
you know, even if you don't tell, like even if they don't tell you to your face, you can. I guess after, depending on how well you know the person, but you can feel how they just the way they view you, you know.
Hmm.
But we don't let it bother us. But like, not to the point of where they despise you, but like you know, uh, you just get that general feeling. Uh, but it's it's God will grant us victory, And I think I wanted to say I like the verse about how the truth prevails, so we can see it's a good lesson for us to like in our submission and growing our submission and all the people I think we've talked to over time and the way our dealings with just different people and the way they sometimes despise us, laugh at us. Uh, a lot of it probably happens on. It's still going to be, we trust in God's victory. So the one
Hmm.
who laughs last, laughs the best.
Yeah, definitely,
But
brother.
yeah, it's a good reminder, like for myself that uh, that the truth does prevail, and despite all the idol worshippers and the people who disbelieve and they still worshiping Jesus, and they're too arrogant, to see. Like someone I recently talked to, actually even read the Qurans or said they did, but I think it's more the fact they didn't actually understand it or take time to study it. Um, but like the verse says, "My proofs have been presented to you, but you turned away arrogantly." So I mean, but they look at you as like you're like the poor one or the sad one, like oh poor thing, you know. Um, but despite these, we don't. We can just do our part, and this is what makes too. If we hold steadfast, what makes the victory. Um, so awesome. In support from God, you know. I think it reminds me of like a verse that says, God will grant you two things you truly love and support from Him, and a guaranteed victory. I think if I'm remembering that correctly, I think in Surah 23. But that's all.
Hmm.
Yeah, mashallah, brother. Maybe we can also talk a little bit about 42. He then said to the one to be saved, remember me at your Lord. Thus, the devil caused him to forget his Lord, and consequently, he remained in prison a few more years. So, like we read here, that the devil caused him to forget his Lord. The same sentence I remember Moses, when they were traveling, he said the same about it. Um, So, like, how should we, like, what does this mean? And maybe the message of the covenant, he was talking about this topic, that the devil is making them forget it. I think it was in one of the voice recordings where he was talking about the journey of Moses. Like, why do we say, or why does God say, thus the devil caused him to forget his Lord? like he was whispering to him, or like he was in the situation, like give, yeah, mm, tricking him into forgetting God, forgetting his Lord. But because this is a mistake he made, right? And then, yeah, it caused them to be prisoned a few more years. And for example, when man forgot about, right? He forgot about it, and then he ended up, of course, leaving those animals. But like, is it every time that the devil has to do with it? Like, how should we understand this? In which way should we understand this?
Yeah, so I mean, the devil, we know that's, Satan is always trying to divert us from God's revelations and trying to whisper to us. So, that's what I would think, that, if for example, like, um, I it's my prayer, or it's something like that, where I'm distracted from God, like, the devil can be, uh, and it doesn't necessarily have to be Satan, for example. I mean, it can, Quran talks about human and jinn devils, right? So, the devil can be like metaphorically referring to maybe
Ah, the
you
companion,
know,
you mean?
the companion, or yeah, it could be referring to the companion, and it could also be referring to the actual person too. The devil, if
Mm.
the person is a bad person, or if I have a bad side of myself, which my companion would be worse, right? I mean, the way we understand that, I mean, Satan, his job is to, divert us,
Yeah.
to illusions, to getting us involved. I mean, it could be another person, for example. He could be, an evil person, or a hypocrite, or like a disbeliever, who maybe, who may come to you and say, "Hey, let's go do this or do that," and you end up forgetting about what's more important, which is God.
Hmm.
Yeah, like become distracted, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, I find it interesting too, like the verse about the woman, the governor's wife, how she claims she never betrayed Joseph in his absence, but I think her entire scheme was exactly this. But then she says she's claimed, I did not claim innocence for myself. The self is an advocate of vice. So, she is reflecting on these
Hmm.
things. But
Yeah.
maybe she said, like in verse 52, maybe she felt bad about the whole situation and was regretful. And
Hmm.
but yeah, I mean, the entire situation was her and the others betraying him. But God is running everything. He had the prison was better for him. Facilitated on how he attained prominence. What do y'all think about brother? You have about
Hmm.
We can't really hear you,
Yeah,
John.
your voice keeps going in and out for some reason.
uh, can
Yeah,
y'all
are
hear
you
me
in and
better?
out?
Yes, yes, brother.
Oh, having it here in Louisiana. They have Five Guys. I think the burger. That was a good one. Can y'all hear a little better now?
Well, yeah.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Yeah. So verse. Oh yeah, 52 and 53. Brother Jaffa, didn't you uh have a question
50,
about that? Or 52
50,
and 53?
52, 50. Let me check. Oh, yeah. So, when I was reading this, um, so it says, "Oh, I hope that he will realize that I never betrayed him in his absence." Like the wife of the governor is saying this. So he's referring, I hope that he will realize, like, who is this he? Is it her husband, or is it Joseph? Like this, I couldn't really. For God does not bless the schemes of the betrayers. Yeah, like maybe you can help me understand this verse from the moment where they. And then the wife of the governor said, "Now the truth has prevailed. I am the one who tried to seduce him, and he was the truthful one." So in this sentence, he is Joseph. Then she says, "I hope that he will realize that I never betrayed him in his absence." Like, what does this mean? What does she mean
Me,
by betraying him in his absence? Like, what does this mean?
I mean, to me, it always, I mean, the whole situation was her betraying and betraying, I mean, herself too, along with other women. But I always, I guess, understood this like she was, this, the truth has prevailed. And uh, I guess
I
she
do
was
not
just
claim
saying,
innocence.
she was saying whatever she was going to say, you know.
Yeah, and then she goes on, she says, "I do not claim innocence for myself, and the self is an advocate of vice, except for those who have attained mercy from my Lord. My Lord is forgiver, most
Hmm.
merciful." Like this shows that she, at that moment, she talks like a believer. That's why I was a little bit confused. Like, okay, is this is this Joseph
Hmm.
speaking, or is this her? Because for God does not bless the schemes, and
Hmm.
then for my Lord forgive most merciful. So, and then we read in 54 that the king said, "Bring him to me." So at that point, he is not there, right? He comes afterwards.
Mhm. Yeah, she seems like she's reflecting, like, on the
Hmm.
situation because
Yes.
everything's been exposed. And I guess she's reflecting. And maybe she became a believer, but we don't
Hmm.
know. You know.
Yeah, the thing is when it says like I hope he'll realize that I never betrayed him in his absence. I think this is referring to the governor because
Hmm.
she was the wife of the governor, right?
Hmm.
But she says then also she says, but I'm not saying like I am totally innocent, like I did
Hmm.
when saying that the self is an advocate of vice except for those who have in mercy. So it says like, okay, but I'm not saying like I'm all that pure, like I did have the urge or I did try basically, I did try, but that's all she's saying. She said I tried to seduce him, but he didn't do anything. And but she's also saying in her own defense that she didn't like commit adultery or anything like that. She still honored her husband in his absence. Um, because even this one that she tried to do apparently like that didn't work out right. But this probably only happened because she couldn't. She found him irresistible or whatever.
I thought she was. It was Joseph's absence, because he was absent until now, like he was in a prison. But maybe.
Yeah, but she was the governor's wife.
Mhm.
We're talking about a woman who's married to another person. So, I mean, betrayal to him
Like she, but
wouldn't make any
yeah,
sense in that sense that, for example, Joseph doesn't have any feelings for her. Like, they're not in a committed relationship, so you would not be betrayed, no matter what you do. Like, it's not like, but for the governor, I mean, of course, it's his wife, they're in a committed relationship. So if she goes
I
on
guess.
and, for
Yeah, I
example,
guess it's
sleeps
the
with someone else, that would be
right.
considered betrayal.
Yeah, I guess it's the previous verse because they were talking, which made it seem to me like they was talking about Joseph. But
Mm-hmm.
that makes more
Mm-hmm.
sense because she's quoted
Yeah.
talking about Joseph twice.
Hmm.
and for her to transition, I guess. But yeah, I
Hmm.
mean that makes sense too.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, makes, yeah, definitely.
Makes more sense with the governor.
Hmm. Like she's saying, like she never had like sight of uh,
Uh,
uh, marital relations. But yeah, I mean, it would be more clear if it mentioned the name of who she was referring to, because it does sound like, given the fact that his name is not, it's not talking about the governor.
Mentioned, yeah.
Also, yeah, but it does say the wife of the governor said, now that the proofs had prevailed, I was the one who tried to seduce him, and he was the truthful one. I hope that he will realize that I never betrayed him in his absence.
And then, but if you go
Yeah.
back,
Mm.
but they
But the only
already
one she could
had,
possibly betray would be the governor because she was his wife. Right? So,
uh,
yeah.
yeah, as well.
Yeah.
But like with betraying, does this, okay, yeah. Okay, okay,
yeah, I
okay,
always
okay.
thought she was
Yes.
trying to
Yeah.
stick up for herself, like, or she was trying to claim innocence, not claim innocence, but I
Hmm.
guess yeah, but it makes sense. But it's probably the governor. But I guess in
It,
like the way I understood it, it was Joseph was absent from the entire scene, and she knows what she did, and she did but betray him in a sense in that way, and then she did. But then in the next verse, she says she doesn't claim innocence for herself.
Yeah,
So
but I mean, also like if she, that would be like also, if she didn't betray him, and that like betraying him in what way? Like how would she betray him? Like having relations with her husband. She's already married. Like is that betrayal? Like I never betrayed him in his absence. Like he wasn't.
maybe we can
So just
read,
huh?
maybe like in 25, it says the two towards the door and in process to store his garments from the back. They found be the punishment for one who wanted to molest your wife, except imprisonment or painful. And then he said, she is the one who tried to seduce me. A witness from her family suggested if the garments from the back, from the front, then she is telling the truth and he's a liar. And if the garments are from the back, then she. And then when her husband saw that his garment was torn from the back, he said, "This is a woman's scheme. Indeed, your scheming is formidable." Okay, so okay. So that happened, right? And then she says, I hope that he will realize that I never betrayed him in his absence.
mm, yeah, I guess 50,
But she betrayed him. Wait, but
50,
she betrayed
51
him.
is
No, this
is
is refer. This is
about
definitely
I'm trying
about
to.
the governor because
Yeah.
yeah, because there's no way to betray someone. I mean, like unless the person has some expectation from you. And
But
in this
yeah.
case, like if we're talking about betrayal, like you can think that she maybe you can say like, oh, there was some kind of maybe some kind of one way relationship that she loved him and she wouldn't betray him, but then she was the governor's wife, so and he was gone for so many years, so and it wouldn't be considered betrayal because he doesn't have any feelings for her. He was running away to save himself, so in that sense,
Mhm.
like betrayal doesn't really mean
Because the act
much.
didn't happen. Is that
Yeah,
the reason why she says? Because
Mhm.
the act didn't happen.
the act didn't
Oh,
happen. So
okay.
she's saying like I never had. It's not like I had relations with anybody. I did try to
Mhm.
seduce him. Like imagine a woman like this in his
Mm,
situation where she tried to seduce another person, and then the story becomes public. You know, and then so she has to say, well, but
I
it's
guess
not like
right.
I've
Yes,
been
yeah, that
betraying my
makes
husband
sense.
in his absence.
Mhm.
mhm.
And then, but she says, but I'm not saying like, hey, I'm this pure person either. Like I did, try to do this, and the self is an
Mhm.
advocate of vice.
Right, yeah, that actually makes sense. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I guess the understanding of betrayal, like the way I've heard it growing up, has not always been used in sexual terms. Like you could betray
Mm-hmm.
like a family member or a friend if you
Mm-hmm.
lie about them or something.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Right.
like at school, like if you lie about
Mm-hmm.
your friend in middle school, or like, oh, you betrayed me,
Yeah, but
like,
that's a friend, right? You could betray a friend because a friend expects you to be loyal to them. But
yeah,
in this case, I mean, there's no relationship between the two of them.
right.
Right? If he was a friend, yeah, you could say that I betrayed, didn't betray him.
uh Yeah, betrayal incites that there's some type of
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
you have gained, like, yeah, someone's
Mm-hmm.
trust or something,
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
betray their
Especially when it's talking
trust.
about absence, like it's definitely referring to the spouse because the spouse can be present and absent. Like in this case, the spouse was absent when she tried
Yeah,
to.
because that
Yeah.
makes sense now. Because
Mm.
she didn't betray him because nothing happened.
Nothing happened.
But
Yeah.
but then it's like I'm thinking, well, you did try to seduce him, like. But then the very next
Mm-hmm.
verse addresses that and says, "I do not claim innocence for myself." So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that makes perfect sense actually.
Mm-hmm.
Because yeah, but yeah, mashallah, she's reflective.
Which also shows that people had a different moral standard, you know, back then than they have now.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, one found um talk about righteousness, about God, like, and I'm not talking about Joseph, like, of course, like, it's about these people from that area.
Sorry, can you repeat your comment again?
Yeah, so no, I was saying that these people, they talk about God, they use the word God, they talk about God, they know, like, they talk about righteousness, right? So doing the good thing, bad thing, they, in their time, they accept that deed as seducing someone is a bad thing, so they have
Mm-hmm.
some kind of a culture, where they
Mm-hmm.
have some rules. So what I understand from this is probably we are dealing at the time about a people who, it's not like the people of the where Lot was. They were really bad, doing bad things. So here they have at least some kind of um, a culture. They know that seducing is bad. They have rules. You go to, you can be in prison, but still,
Mm-hmm.
you have these people. They have power. They can, send you to the prison,
Mm-hmm.
even
Mm-hmm.
when you are, yeah, like,
Innocent.
yeah.
Yeah, too, like the verse also, mashallah, it says, because you got, the king when has to gather all the women. I mean, everybody's around, so the husband, the governor's probably here too. I mean, because it was a big incident, and
No,
it,
it's the woman who are doing the gossip. Yeah.
yeah, so yeah, it's definitely talking about the governor, mashallah.
Hmm.
I never, yeah, I always, these verses, like when I would read them, because it was the preceding verse, they were all talking about Joseph, but it never really even, I never really, I was always wondered about that part, because but yeah, this is mashallah, this is good.
And in a way, can we not say that those people are actually saved because they deserve to be saved? There was this bad situation coming. The king saw this dream, but eventually they were saved because Joseph became the treasurer, and then he showed them the way how to save themselves, right? And actually, he gave this information even before he came the treasurer. He told them, he told them already that how to deal with the situation, right? Because he explains. Where does he explain it? He says, "When the time of harvest comes, leave the grains in their spikes, except for what you eat." So he gives the solution to it. He doesn't say, take me out of prison and then make me the treasurer and then I will like tell you guys how to solve the problem. He gives already the solution,
Hmm.
right? And then those people are saved from such bad thing.
Right, right.
Yeah, and besides that, there's also he says, make me the treasurer for I am experienced in this area. Like when was he experienced? Like where did he get this experience from? Was it while he was in the governor's house? Does he mean that one, or is it
Maybe with
something
his,
that he
maybe growing up or something with his the
Hmm.
flocks and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
He might have
maybe.
in
heard
this
of.
area?
Well, I mean, the fact, yeah, maybe the fact that he is working in the governor's house, maybe he's taking care of stuff, you know?
Mhm. Yeah,
Hmm. He says, "I am experienced in this area and
Hmm.
knowledgeable."
Hmm.
yeah, he was
But
probably got training and stuff in the governor's house.
Hmm.
does he also mean by like he received revelations from God? So, but he still could do other things, not and not be treasurer, but still guide the people. Like. So this shows that most probably, yeah, he was experienced in because he lived in the governor's house, yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, so when this is like for me, after reading all these verses, like the one that really hits me is actually that he remained in prison a few more years because of he forgot about remembering his Lord, right? Like God, he was asking someone else. Like this is really um like because I can speak for myself, right? So we of course try to remember God all the time, ask help to God only, right? Like we are really trying to do that, or I am trying to doing that. But of course, I also forget. Maybe sometimes you get into a situation where you are hoping or asking certain people, or you come into these certain situations where you ask someone to help you out, right? Is that different than what we read in, for example, in 42? Does it need to be a very severe situation where you need to ask help only from God and don't ask help from someone else? Or is it also for like smaller things? Like I know
No,
that God
it's
is
about
doing
showing,
everything.
it's about showing dependence, you know? Like, he showed dependence on other than God. It's not about really about what he said, but it could also be about what he
He
said. But
relied on someone else
yeah,
than God.
yeah, but his statement showed uh, that, he wasn't relying on God. He forgot about God at that point. Like,
But
imagine, like,
how? But
you
yeah,
can ask God, ask people for help, in the sense that you understand. As long as you understand the help is coming from God, you need to recognize that, right? Like, if
Mhm.
I ask someone for help, but I forget that the help is coming from God, I've just idolized this person. That's the definition of idol worship. Like you think anything or anyone besides God can help you or benefit you in some way, that's by definition idolatry, right? And so him thinking that the king, this person can help him by talking to the king, he at that moment he completely forgot about God, and that was a
So
mistake he
if
made.
he, oh, so if he would say, "Oh my God, help me to get out from this prison," and
Hmm.
then tell to the guy, "Hey man, listen, go and talk about me with the king, and then I have some things to say," or like tell them, "At least I interpreted your dream," and
I mean,
um,
it's really the real crime was not the words he chose even, but obviously, with words you can also nullify, say this claim, right? But it's about what he in his heart at the time, his state of mind, he believed.
oh,
You know.
so he was okay. So he is in prison. He knows that there is a king. He knows that that king rules over this land. But actually, it is God who rules the whole land. So him
Hmm.
asking about who can take me out from this prison.
Hmm.
It's yeah, and then this person is going to become because he was interpreting. How was he interpreting it? He says, um,
He just simply forgot about God at that point.
"I was
Like
making
sometimes it can
God." Yeah.
happen. Like for example, you're in a difficult situation and you find someone who can help you. It's very easy to forget that God is actually the one who's helping us. Like, let's say you're going for a
Exactly.
job, or
Yeah.
someone's a decision maker for a business deal or whatever. You thinking at that
Oh.
time that, it's this
And
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Quwwata
Hmm.
illa billah. No one
Yeah.
possesses power
Yeah.
except God. So
Hmm.
that's that.
Yeah.
That like I
Hmm.
really like that one. I think from Surah
Hmm.
18 because it's basically saying, uh, well, also telling us God is doing everything. But yeah, as long as we know, like Brother Suleiman had said, we know the help is coming from God, whether it's small or big. But yeah, it's also alerting and alarming for us as submitters how careful we have to be, just
Yes.
in our daily
Yes.
interactions. Like if we think somebody's helping us, or we forget, excuse me, we forget about God, then that by definition is shirk, like the messenger said, and that I mean that's idol worship. You know? So well, I think eventually we have to get to the point of like, um, yeah, not, but not
Yeah, but the
not ever.
example with the job is a good example, I think. You're there sitting and then talking to the company owners and then thinking that, okay, if I can impress these people, I can get the job. Actually, you don't have to impress them, right? Like if it's meant for you, or if it's within the plan of God, yeah, and God is the one who's making these decisions.
Yeah, I mean, we should still
Like,
try. Like for example, I'm gonna go on an interview, to
mhm.
try to dress nice and do a good job, but uh, we know like everything
But
is
you
being
know it's
controlled by
from God.
God.
Yeah. But
Hmm.
while you're doing it, you know at that point, okay, I'm doing this, but in reality, I know, of course, God is the one who's going to make the decision. And if He planned me to work there, then I'm going to work. But if He didn't, then it's not going to happen. So if you end up not having the job as a submitter, then you are extremely happy because then okay, God wanted not me to work there. Probably He has other plans for me. I submit to His will. I submit to His decision, right? Like, okay, and that makes you worshiping Him. This is the way of worship. This is a way of worship. Yes, like accepting what happens, knowing that He is the one who makes the decisions, and then you being totally happy with it, submitting to the will of God. And if you
Yeah, it's
don't,
just.
yeah, so
Hmm.
okay, then and if you don't, it's the opposite, right? Like then you are
Objection.
not happy with, yes, you're not happy with. the result. And this means, okay, I'm not happy. I wanted to go and work there, but you didn't decide me to do that. So I'm not really happy. I'm not
But
accepting this. So you're
yeah.
objecting.
I think even too, like even for small things, like speaking for myself here,
It's a worship,
uh,
right? Can we
yeah,
see
like
this,
if we
brother?
get upset, like if our computer, mashallah, it hasn't happened in some time, but like we really have to be super
Hmm.
um, critical of ourselves, like the messenger said, because it's only for our benefit too, you know, because we want to get to that point of believing God is doing everything. Because this is the reason why He said most believers in God are going to hell, because they don't. I mean, this is for all of us too. Like we have to
Hmm.
like evaluate ourselves. Like so,
Hmm.
if we're at a computer and it crashes, like the first instinct, or like you're doing something, uh, let's say in Suno, or you're doing something on YouTube and it crashes and you lose like 3 hours of work, the first thing we'd want to do is object. Because I mean, this is what I mean. This is probably how we were. All of us, all humans, most humans are. But this is like if we object, I mean, that's idol worship. You know, because we're now unhappy with something. Because you know, and I think 19 strengthens us in this sense. Because like when you really and it's going to do so, I think, for everybody once the victory comes. But like what we know, excuse me, like every verse in the Quran is proven, and so you know we know that God is running everything. Not a atom's weight is out of His control. So I mean, the atoms, like within the laptop, the silicon, the electrons
Mm.
that are falling,
Yeah.
the screen, the haptic
Hmm.
feedback on our phones, that's
Even the
all control.
location,
Yeah, that's all controlled by
even the
God.
location where it is.
Yeah, exactly. So whatever happened, if it crashed, I mean, it was atoms that are making up the screen and the software and yeah, the location, the Wi-Fi signals, the invisible. That's all controlled by God. And if we get upset, we're basically saying, "I don't like what you're doing." I mean, that's it's really like, uh,
Totally agree, brother.
yeah, yeah, because like the most important sermon he gave, God is doing everything. I mean, this is something. This is, but it's also like the most like you said, it sheds a whole new light on submission. You know, so getting to this point is, excuse me, happiness is submission to God. You know, so nothing will bother you. Essentially, excuse me.
And it's a way of worship. Like, when you follow that road of um, at that moment acknowledging and knowing that it is actually God who's making these decisions, and you are knowing that, like you make a distinction between yourself and others who don't know this. So you at that moment, since this is an act, right? Like you are doing something. This is like it's a practice. It's like praying. Like we pray 5 times a day. It's a physical act. We do that, but when you go to an interview and at that moment you accepting, acknowledging that, and then believing in that is also, in my opinion, an act of worship. So, yeah, and at that point, when you know that it's God, you are worshiping God, and when you think that it's the company owners who are going to make the decision, then you make those company owners your God, right? And this is idol worship.
Hmm. Yeah, like the verse says, they'll have nothing to fear, nor will they grieve. Like
Hmm.
this is, I think, paramount to our submission and eternal happiness because like the person that previously, like in the days of ignorance uh, or whenever you think that they're having some power, they can hurt you or something. They're controlled by God, so
Hmm.
nothing will happen to you. And then you realize that God is doing everything. He's in full control of all the creatures, all the atoms, and so you're in perfect protection and security. And
Hmm.
uh, this is, I mean, like it's the ultimate. Uh, having
mm,
like having the comfort. You know how like when you go to when you're in a safe home or something, or that
mm,
feeling you get. I mean, it's. I mean, but it's like wherever you go, and so we can see like a slip. Like what happened to Joseph. I mean, it can be the same for us too. So because we have the message, and if we mess up in this regard, we'll probably something similar could happen to us.
mm. Yeah, in all these circumstances, like we need to act in that way. Like we need to act as submitters. We need to know that God is in power. And this also means that if we don't do that, most probably we also going to like there are um, consequences involved, right? Like what? Like if the consequences, if Joseph had the consequence of remaining in prison for a few more years, yeah. So that shows that there is definitely a consequence, and we should know this. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, and Satan won't like try to make us to forget these things. Our zikrs and stuff that help us. He'll try to distract us and cause us to forget.
Hmm.
But I mean, even the messenger had said you might forget once in a while, but or I don't know what zikr he was, if I remember, who he was referring to. But
God is running everything.
yeah, yeah,
That's
for
zikr.
our own like eternal salvation,
Hmm.
this is what we have to
Hmm.
like all
We
hundred
need to
percent of the
remind
time.
ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah, or at least try for 100% of the time.
You know, brother, the one thing that really helps with that is when you are with the believers, when you're alone, it's maybe a little bit more difficult because you can sometimes forget, right? It's like certain things are happening. Like for example, the last thing that happened with me was, I was so busy with work and so many things were like it was very difficult, and I found myself being upset about certain situations and blaming some people about these mistakes, etc. So eventually I was in a state where I wasn't happy. It was like yeah, like irritating. Okay, so then I was thinking like what is the reason, what's going on, etc. Then I found myself um remembering less that God is doing everything, like when you think all the time of God and you remember yourself. And then Mardani, my brother Mardani, he was the one who actually helped me remember. He was saying, listen, you really need to know that God is doing all these things. So like blaming others or being frustrated about this current situation is actually is objection. So you really need to stop with this. So it doesn't matter how hard we try when you have like believers around, brothers or believers, or like that really helps in that type of situations when you're not alone. You have someone who's going to remind you of that. Hey, don't forget, my brother, like this is God. Yeah, it's really from God. So take care of yourself. And I think that's why one of the reasons to force yourself to be believers is really helpful.
Mashallah.
Yeah. I don't know if you also had this type of situations, where when you're, for example, with Suleiman or he with you, and then certain things happen, and then you guys remind each other, hey, it's God, like we need to understand. And there, my brother comes. We were talking about you, Mardani, just a minute ago.
Mm-hmm.
Salam alaikum.
Alex,
Yes, Assalamu alaikum, brother.
Just drop my time.
Yeah, brother Jaffer said you object a lot.
No, no. So Mardani, I was talking about the situation, at work, and then I was a little bit frustrated, but then you always reminded me, like God is running everything. Remember we were talking about that. I gave that as an example.
Yeah, Alhamdulillah.
Yeah. So that also, shows, like, I really, this is really amazing, that shows how important it is to have believers. Oh, and this was also the topic of our Friday prayer, mashallah. We did the Friday prayers, and okay, we forgot to record it, but this was also the same topic. Because of those things that happened, the topic was God is running everything, God is doing everything.
I think something like that personally has strengthened me like in the past month and a half. Like when I'm by myself is just thinking about 19, you know, like re-witnessing the miracle or just thinking about something kind of like we were talking, I think, about in the last study. And because then it's like you're, uh, well, for one, like you think about God and then you have certainty about like he's doing everything, like, you think, because you had mentioned about being by yourself and stuff. So,
Hmm.
like you could be driving or just or doing or walking, and then just remembering something you had read, let's say the other day, or something to do with the ALRs or ALMs or HMs, and then just thinking about that, and then it hits you again, like, wow, this is from the Lord of the heavens and earth, and
Hmm.
you have like 100% certainty. Then, like objecting isn't even in the realm of your. It doesn't matter what's happening, and
Hmm.
I think this is like useful, especially, yeah, like you had mentioned. This is, I think, when I'm by myself, this is
It's a blessing,
very helpful.
you know.
Yeah.
It's a blessing, brother, really. Like, my whole, especially after the Friday prayer, my whole mood changed. Like, like, for, I think, for 2 weeks, it was very, stressful, very thing. But after this, really reminding ourselves that God is in power. Like, how in the world could, like, of course, I know and I believe God is doing everything, but then when you come in certain situations where you are, there's a lot of pressure on you, and then actually at that moment, it's important to, imply
Mhm.
this in your life. Like, only saying it doesn't really, yeah, no, it does, because the messenger says, the more you say it, the more you mean it. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, like get to the point of belief, instead of
Hmm.
you see something, God is doing everything, but you have to
Hmm.
get to the point and know that, yeah, this is being done by God. 19 removes all doubt, and it gives us
Hmm.
certainty. Like it
Hmm.
removes all the doubt, and and then looking at more aspects of the miracle.
Hmm.
But it's interesting too, because I think like the more I've looked into it and then just thought about like how interconnected and or what's the word that the messenger had used, and what did he use, interconnected, right? Like it's I mean, it's amazing. And then, for the people who look at the miracle and then see nothing there, the Christians who aren't even really Christians, or said they, I mean, these are the same people like that are gonna end up in hell, and they're gonna, I mean, it says study the Quran carefully. Why do they not reflect? And then there's a few other verses that were kind of applicable, because I just had a conversation with somebody, and then the messenger had uh, explained in, from the Quran, he quoted the verses about how they're put their shields. That this makes sense. It makes sense. We will divert those who are too arrogant. And the messenger, I forget what Friday sermon, but
What was the topic?
He was talking about the Arabs, and like the proofs were getting stronger and stronger, and about the number
Ah,
of
okay.
laws that are outside the six, the initial set of surahs, which those are also, excuse me, a multiple of 19. And then there was like even in the surahs and verses where those occur are multiple 19, and it's so interconnected. And then he said, he explained, why they can't see it, and because these people are too arrogant. So they have shields put on them. So if you're talking to a Christian who is so arrogant on their insistence upon not examining, like, no, I don't need to look at this proof, or I already looked at it, like, or they, God knows what's in their hearts. These people will literally be prevented from actually seeing the proof of 19. You know, they're
Moment.
just gonna pass it up, or just not think anything about it. Um, but yeah, this explains, like, seeing seeing that explained by him. I mean, he was using verses. He's talking about the Quran verses. I forget exactly which one. It makes sense, why you could talk about 19 to somebody, even from the same upbringing as you, but they don't, they don't believe. I mean, in the same way, like Pharaoh and didn't believe the miracles of Moses. He was just too arrogant to accept them. So,
Mashallah, Brother John also released an album too that is out now on Spotify and Apple Music. And it is
mashallah.
called
Oh, you didn't
uh,
send the link. You
it's
said
called Before the
you
Dust. You can just
oh,
uh,
copy the title.
yeah, just search Formula 19,
Okay.
and the album title is Before the Dust.
Is this
It's on
done like how did
Spotify.
you do? Is it with AI or
Spotify,
is it like done
yeah,
by
yeah.
yourself?
Well,
Yeah, it's
Oh,
he
with
by
wrote,
AI.
AI.
yeah, but
Okay, mashallah.
he wrote
Mashallah,
the
brother.
A few
songs. Some of the
songs, like I
songs,
wrote the
yeah,
second song.
yeah.
The second
John,
song,
can you
I wrote
also sing,
everything
brother?
myself. No, no,
Can
I
you also
cannot.
sing? Oh, you can't.
No,
Okay.
I wouldn't be a
Yeah,
good
because you
singer.
have an amazing voice, like you have this, like an amazing voice, like radio voice. Maybe I think they call it
Well, thank you.
radio
I
voice.
don't think so.
MashaAllah.
Well,
No, I
thank
do, brother. MashaAllah.
you. Okay. Yeah, you're the first person to tell me something nice. Like everybody is. Yeah. I guess. Mashallah.
Yeah, I am your brother. I'm your brother. We're brothers, man. Come on.
Yeah, most
MashaAllah,
people
brother.
ask me what's wrong with my voice, or not most people, but
Mm-hmm.
I'd say 1 out of every 10
Mm-hmm.
people might like
Mm-hmm.
something. But thank you for that.
Yeah, mashallah, brother. MashaAllah.
Mashallah.
Yeah, I will try to listen to it, inshallah, God willing, after the study.
mashallah. Yeah, I kind of did a theme. Some of the song, a lot of the songs are kind of themed, in the Quran. But
Hmm.
and about the plan for redemption and mercy, and but yeah, one of my favorite albums.
By the way, Suleiman, Brother
Hmm.
Mardani has also made some music. Maybe
Uh-huh.
he can share. I'm not sure. Like
Yeah.
you did, he showed me some of them. I really liked it. One of them was,
No, mine,
Yeah,
can
please
mine
you?
share.
are bad, man.
No, come on, man. Why are you
Nothing
saying? It was
compare
about
what they're
Besmala.
making. I'm amateur.
It doesn't matter, man. It sounds very nice, so maybe you can show.
Yeah,
He has this app, this AI app,
Uh-huh.
where you give the text and then,
Uh-huh.
and he showed me this example about Basmala, and then, he made a few of
Uh-huh.
them. It was very nice. Like,
Uh-huh.
but okay.
Yeah, please also share in
Hmm.
the WhatsApp group if you can.
Yeah, mashallah.
Love to hear Dragon. Yeah, it's good. I think for Ramadan is coming, Night of Destiny is coming. So it'd be good to
Mhm.
have more zikr and stuff for meditation.
Inshallah.
Along with it to sing along, meditate with it.
Inshallah.
Yeah, mashallah. It's only in like 3 months, I think.
Hmm.
It's in March, I
Yeah,
think, of
yeah,
this year.
yeah.
I think 2029 is going to be in December, the Ramadan or something. Last or 2028.
2028.
I think I had
Mm.
looked in the
Yeah,
app.
I think 2029 is going to be on the 18th of February, right? Which is on
Let me
Huda's
check.
birthday.
Fasting 2029 is 16th of January up to the 13th of February.
No, wait, 16th? Huh?
Yes, 16
Birthday.
January.
16th?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, maybe I'm getting confused.
28 is 27 January. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about the other night because I knew, like, in a couple years it would. I was wondering, oh, we might be fasting during the smoke. More credit.
Yeah.
That'd be. Yeah, man. Yeah, I mean, all of that's mathematically coded too. The 19 and serve 44. So it's yeah, as we know, and this is subhanallah. This is the messenger of the covenants prophecy. This belongs to the Quran. It's not anything to do with what the idol worshippers or would try to um maybe say, but thank God we have the proof. Um, in this
Yeah, of course.
regard.
Like the example of the Joseph, right? Like they are going to prepare for something that they, for a certainty, know it's going to happen. So, um, we are already very lucky that we know these certain things, so we can be prepared. At least with masks, with some water. We are not going to be shocked. We are going to be totally prepared for this, God willing. And then that is like in that certain situations where you have like a huge disaster, these small preparations even make a huge difference.
Oh wow! It actually
It's
just
a blessing
reminded me.
from
I had
God.
a yeah,
Mm.
yeah, I had a
You
dream
had what?
last night. No, I
Anything?
was just saying. I totally forgot about. Yeah, nothing. Yeah, water and food and because I mean something like that I mean the stores and everything are going to be emptied out. You're probably not even going to be able to get because of the traffic. I mean, people are going to be going like bonkers.
Hmm.
I
We
mean,
are
the
already.
second an asteroid hits the Earth and in the news, I mean, you're gonna probably see everybody running outside, like
Mhm,
getting whatever provisions as far as food and water they can
mhm.
get. I mean, it's gonna be complete chaos.
Yeah, we're already receiving here in the Netherlands letters from the government giving like explanations on how to deal with disasters after like within the next 72 hours. And they say you at least need to have some water for 72 hours, something to eat, drink, like health boxes, that type of stuff. They're
Mm,
sending that type of things to the people, to warn them, like be careful if a disaster will happen. It is as if they know that Apophis is going to hit, right? Or maybe
yeah,
they're thinking about something else.
maybe you can
A
consult them.
cyber attack.
You can consult.
Yeah.
They can go to you and like tell us more.
Yeah. Like they don't believe, like for example, the people who I told about Apophis, they don't really believe it, but they are in a certain way, like they are so scared that they are thinking of at least doing some certain preparations, at least to have some extra water, or they say, oh no, we don't believe it, it's not going to happen, and then they're laughing about it. But still, what if it is going to happen, right?
Yeah, I thought. Yeah, like it reminds me of how the messenger said, like the people that believe just in case, like oh maybe like there is a hereafter and stuff. So there's nothing you can lose. I'm gonna believe in God, and or even people do
Hmm.
that for
Hmm.
believing in Jesus. Oh yeah, you might. Let me just do it just in case. And then actually, there's a lot of people too that I've even talked to people when I was a lot younger that uh, thought like this, but the belief isn't genuine. I think, like in this regard. So it's just like
Hmm.
as an in case. It's kind of like if you're like you're in 1 foot in the door, 1 foot out the door. Like even like in a marriage, for example. I mean, what kind of spouse these people should reflect? Like, what kind of spouse would you feel, or would that be if you are just 1 foot in the door, 1 foot out the door? And the second,
Hmm.
it's not. I mean, how can you really love somebody like that? And I mean, the same thought process. People should like look at these. The way God created us as mates and as humans in our system too. That people can think about idol worship in regards to their creator, and they really think that just in case, I mean, what kind of you know, that's not unbefitting of God, to they have the wrong thoughts about God, like the messenger had said. But but yeah, I think too a lot of people are probably gonna die. I mean, people like that died during COVID. I mean, the amount of people that we know is going to be worse than COVID-19. So
Hmm.
Apophis
Yeah, you could
19
at least
is,
go outside
uh,
and breathe, in a normal way.
yeah, yeah, it's almost too like the mask with the COVID. Now you're actually going to really need masks. You're going to need gas particle masks and stuff, which they a sufficient one's only like 30 to 40 bucks, and then the filters you could get, but. I mean, nobody's going to have in the few people that they're going to clear out the shelves. I mean, these are things we're probably going to. I mean, it's going to probably even worse than, or more not worse, but more severe than what our imagination can like think about. Because there's not the manufacturing stops, the food production stops. I mean, people are gonna start running out of water. I mean, no sun. I mean, it's gonna be yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's may God help us during these times. Continue to support us. yeah, like all the people that look at. Uh, I mean, how is it going to be for them when like this disaster strikes? And they used to reject it.
Hmm. Yeah.
Where's the Netherlands? That's in Europe, right? That's in
Yeah, it's in
You're
the
not.
Europe, in the
Yeah,
corner.
you're not.
Yeah.
You're pretty far from.
Hmm. Yeah, but, yeah, okay. So we have here, um, what is it called in English? I don't know. We call them dikes, like
Dikes.
dam, dike. Do you call it dike also?
Dike. Okay. Yeah.
So you have the high hills, let's say, that prevent sea water or coming inside the land, because the land here is around 30
Dam,
meters. Sorry,
dam.
dam. Yeah,
We
dam.
call them
Yeah.
dams.
So we
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
Dams.
dam. Yeah. So we have these dams, and then the land here in like almost 50% of the Netherlands is around, if I'm not mistaken, 30 meters lower than sea level. So if these dams,
Three
and what
meters.
happens is you have, sorry,
3 meters.
no, it's not 3 meters. It's more than that.
30. It's a lot, man.
Oh, oh, really? Let me
Yeah.
check. I
Maybe
thought it
five.
was more.
I don't know.
Hmm.
I don't know. But not 30. 30 is a lot.
Yeah, it is
No, it's about quarter of a third below the sea level.
a
Yeah.
quarter of a
Uh,
third.
it says
Yeah.
Netherlands is estimated to be a quarter of the third below the sea level, right? About 7 meters. Lowest point is about 7 meters,
Oh, it's seven.
23 feet
Okay.
below the sea level.
Because in 1953, I think, a disaster happened, and then like you had all these houses, they were underwater. Like, yeah, and there was
Hmm.
like two. Yeah, okay. So, okay, eventually, these dams, what they do is the water that comes into these lands, they use these pumps to put the water back into the sea, right? And all of those things, they work with electricity, the pumps, And if those pumps stop working, then eventually, in a certain time, the water is going to, there's going to be too much water in the land.
Uh,
That is one
they
of
had
the
something similar, like
Hoogtepunten.
Hurricane Katrina in 2005, like in Louisiana. The state of
Yeah, around
the
7 meters.
entire
Oh, okay.
city flooded. Like it was killed a lot of people. It was the worst hurricane ever. I think in one of the first or second worst in recorded U.S. history. But
Hmm.
yes, and they had this New Orleans is low is however many feet below sea level, and it's surrounded by like I think Pontchartrain and the Gulf, and the levees, which are similar to what the setup you have. They basically collapsed, and they didn't. They let uh, basically the water from the lake flow into. Uh,
Hmm.
the,
Yeah, so that's one of the main dangers actually that we have in the Netherlands. If that system collapses, then there is a huge chance that there will be overflowed with water, because it's continuously taking out the water
the
from
entire
the,
Netherlands is like that.
not the entire, like they're like around 50%, I think,
Oh
is like
wow.
that, like it's under, like the city where I live, this is done even later at time, and the whole city is like in a lower area. The whole city, it's like a gap, I think. What is it called? Yeah. And they did it with windmills. They used windmills to pump up the water from this area.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Oh, but there is this famous saying, what they say, like it's a bad sentence actually. So they say God created the world and the Dutch created the Netherlands, they say, because of what they have done.
Who created the Dutch?
Yeah.
brother. Mm, yeah, it's funny.
Mhm. Yeah, mashallah, I mean, I think the moral of the story is very important for us, especially the fact that God had destined Joseph to be someone who, because of his righteousness, reached to a position of prominence like this. Despite having like a life where he was it felt like it was injustice. Like people didn't want him to be successful. There were all the scheming and everything going on, despite his brothers like trying to be so jealous of him and trying to make sure that he doesn't uh, get anywhere. That God made him successful in this way. So I mean, I think this itself is a lesson for all of us
Hmm.
to be hopeful to God. Never despair of God's mercy.
Mhm.
Like him being in the prison for such a
Hmm.
long time. It's easy to fall into despair. For example.
Yeah, imagine that. I mean, like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to give myself a test. Like the messenger said,
Mm-hmm.
he has enough tests of his
Oh,
own. I have enough. I don't want to give
oh,
myself a
yes.
test, but that's
Mm-hmm.
so. That's yeah.
Difficult.
That's intense. I
Yeah,
mean, that's
yeah,
extremely.
and especially being good looking and being in prison.
Yeah,
That's even worse.
Mhm.
yeah,
Especially in that and today's standard, right? Based on like how bad prisons are, and
Mhm.
God saved him and gave him success in this way. Mashallah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like didn't he? Doesn't I think it says at the end, which we'll get to. It says if one or what he, I think he'll tell his parents and his family. He says if one steadfastly perseveres and maintains
Hmm.
righteousness, then
Hmm.
uh, I forget the end,
Yeah.
but basically they're
Hmm.
successful. So that's what
Hmm.
we have to focus on.
Yeah, and
Everything.
also, also about the blessing in disguise. I think we touched on it earlier too. That
Mhm.
Yeah,
him being
yeah.
in prison was in fact a blessing in disguise because this is how he was going to reach the king by interpreting his dream. Otherwise, not everyone
Right.
would have access to that. And obviously, God controlled everything. He planned for it this way.
Yeah, the messenger even said it was like a school too. Like he had to go to.
Hmm.
He had to. He had to. It was a blessing, and
Hmm.
actually,
Mm, mhm.
this happened.
Yes.
And then his brothers were still the losers. That schemed against him and didn't
Yeah,
want. And then
But
they
they
saw.
they
They
ended up
also saw
repenting,
too.
right,
Yeah, yeah.
brother?
They repented. Yeah, they.
Yeah, they ended up repenting. So okay.
Yeah, and Jacob, I
Mm.
think, before
At least
the.
they did that.
hmm,
Mhm.
yeah. Which if they were righteous from the get go, I mean, they would have maybe been more successful.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
true. Mashallah, it shows God's mercy too, because we also,
Hmm.
Jacob says he will implore the Lord, and God is most forgiving, most
Hmm.
merciful. And then
Hmm.
Abraham says, if any, or he said, only the disbelievers or the strayers despair of God's mercy. So that's a
Hmm.
reminder for us.
Yeah.
We don't want to despair. You know, um,
I want to ask something about. We didn't read it in these verses, but so Jacob is losing his eyesight, right?
Hmm.
Okay, and the reason why he is losing his eyesight is because he was like crying a lot
Right. He
because
was
of what
grieving a
happened
lot. Yeah.
mm,
to Joseph.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
okay, so like in my opinion, and please like correct me if I'm wrong, like as a messenger of God, um, he already knew that Joseph is there's going to happen certain things with Joseph, and he knew that they couldn't kill him. But the reason why he was crying is because his children did like something bad, or because he really missed his son, like as a father.
Yeah, he really
And
missed his
then
son as a
if that's
father.
the situation, yeah, if that's the
yeah.
situation, like is this something like is this a mistake that he had done because he lost his eyesight because of of him crying about his son so much. You understand what I mean? Like he should, like shouldn't he uh, put his trust into God, knowing that He's going to protect
Mm-hmm.
him? Of course, as a human
Mm-hmm.
being, he's missing his son. I can
Mm-hmm.
understand that. I am also a father,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe
I've kind of
I
wondered
would
the
have, yeah,
same thing before.
Mm-hmm.
because
Yeah,
and
you know,
I
as
remember,
yeah,
yeah,
go ahead.
brother, go ahead.
Yeah, I would say as the messenger of the covenant talked about, you know, like his own body, like he says, you know, if there's any imperfection, you know, it's because of us,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
Again,
and
I
so
didn't understand.
yeah, I was saying like uh, that's also like how the messenger of the covenant he talks about, you know, his own body, like he says, you know, if there's any imperfect, he's talking about God's perfect design, you know, he says when you like for example you just want to scratch your back you you know pull your arm back and you know you can scratch yourself but he says I can't reach it or something he's joking about it and he says if there's any imperfection you know that's because of us
yeah.
God
It's
has
our
created us in the
fault.
best design you know
Yeah,
so
Ah,
like you know so in the same way like you know of course the imperfection was there for him because he was grieving too much I mean he was missing him so it's natural to miss your loved one, especially if you really love them, you know, and they're righteous and everything. And so that's, but you know, he was doing it too much, like he was
mm,
from grieving too much. He did it so much that obviously, you know, he was losing his eyesight. But God says we're not supposed to grieve over anything, you know. But we're just weak human beings, right? I
yeah.
mean,
Noah
yeah.
lost
even
He
his
if
could
you're a
have.
son.
I mean, we
submitter,
know that messengers have admission tests and are being
yeah,
tested. Maybe
and I
that's a
mean
test.
these feelings, having feelings is not a bad thing. For example, you know, having a soft heart is not is a good thing in reality. You know, having a heart that feels things and everything. But the thing is, like he was doing it too much to the point that he was physically hurting himself by doing so.
Mm,
You know, like I mean, it would be bad
mm,
for him, like if he didn't have any feelings you know, it's good that he has feelings, and we as submitters we have feelings too. You know, but the thing is, like how we deal with them, you know, is important. And I think like with this example, like we can see that this was a consequence of him grieving too much, and God tells us that we shouldn't. You know, it's not. It's
mm,
not, but it doesn't mean it's not something like, for example, if you're a very good submitter, you know, that you can just all of a sudden not feel things. You know, I mean, we're human beings. So it's all
mm.
very natural, like these things will happen, you know. So I
Makes
mean,
sense. Yeah.
but you know, God restored his vision for him. You know, at the end, God it fixed it for him. It was almost like a test for him. Like you can see how Jacob had a test, right? And then I mean, sorry, how Job had a
Mm-hmm,
test, and then God
mm-hmm.
restored his family for him and everything. In the same way, you know, his vision was
Mm. He
restored as soon
restored,
as
yeah.
Joseph was returned back to him.
Yes, yes, he restored it. That's definitely right, brother.
The yeah,
Yeah, we
yeah.
can
So it
definitely
was
say
not
that this was a
permanent
test.
damage. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, because it didn't last forever.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yes,
and
yes, yes, brother.
he's still, even going through that. He still was always imploring God and remembering God through this. How he told his sons, and then so there's a good
Yeah, like
lesson to there.
I asked. I wasn't a submitter at the time, and I had this Shiite friend of mine. They have these. Do you call them chuckles, shuckles, or chuckles? Like the things that they hit their backs with, and they
Shackles.
shackles. Yeah, I think it's called
Hmm
shackles, right? And then they hurt themselves. They in a bad way. And when I was asking what, I'm like, God, like, why are you doing this? This is not a good thing. Like,
hmm
you can't hurt your own body, right? You need to protect yourself. You
hmm
can't. Um, so, and then he was giving this examples. He said, "Yeah, look, you have here Prophet Jacob, and he even lost his eyes because of the love for his son." the prophets. So this is an example for us on how we need to love the prophets and the messengers, and that we can cry for them and lose our eyes, or like tear part of bodies, like. And
Hmm.
he used this example.
Yeah, I mean, these people will, we know that they have access to, Sijin, the Iliim, and so, they use the Quran to just like how the Muslims, use the verse of Muhammad as the example, and so they grow beards and do all these stupid things, right? Um, so it's just one of those things because God doesn't give them the understanding on how to apply the Quran in their own life. And when they see these examples, I mean, they use them to justify their idolatry. They idolize these prophets and messengers, and then they use verses like that to justify their idolatry.
Yeah, so are there any other questions, or maybe off topic questions as well?
Hmm. Yeah, any off-topic questions? I think we can discuss them at this point.
Mhm.
Yeah, but Jaffer, you ran out of questions.
No, no, no. Not now. Only when you need to go.
so
So you need to
so
decide, either you're gonna stay and then talk about God, or go and work.
mashallah.
Mashallah.
Yeah, I mean, thank God, I don't have anything, so I can answer more questions. We can answer.
Mashallah.
I guess okay. So if there are no other comments or questions, then God willing, we can conclude our study. Thank you, Brother Jaffer, for leading the study. And God willing, thank you all for participating. God willing, our next English Quran study would be on uh, what
Tuesday.
is this Tuesday? Yeah, I might. We can talk about that on WhatsApp because I think that it might
Mhm.
be a little difficult
Uh,
because I might be traveling.
yeah, I think
So
I'm
that's the
traveling
problem.
too as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Mashallah. Safe travels. Let's say
And thanks,
Al-Fatih
brother.
for Brother
Inshallah.
Suleiman, Brother Joffrey.